In recent sessions, we've talked about art both as a way of seeing more and as a way of communicating. We explored the way that making art can be a way of seeing more in the world around us. In looking at things with the specific purpose of making a drawing or a poem, we may choose or be forced to notice different things from what we'd have noticed if we were looking at them from the point of view of a scientist or a politician. We've also looked at how art carries within it the artist's point of view. Art can show us the artist's view of the world, showing us how the artist sees differently from us and chooses to notice different things. We then carry away with us an expanded view of the world, including not only our own perspective, but the artist's observations as well. From that idea of art as a means of communication or education or explanation, it's then only a small step to the idea of art as propaganda, art as a reminder of the correct collective memory or the correct shared understanding of history or of our common goal. Now, not many people read scientific papers or follow politics or read history books. Not many people spend time in art galleries. But if we include television and cinema, art has a huge reach into the population. In some cases, popular art spreads ideas of difference or rebellion, but for the most part, popular TV and cinema create and perpetuate this correct or corrected collective memory, or they provide a shared cultural reference point within which we can all situate our ideas. So, thinking in this module as we are about landscapes, human landscapes, physical landscapes, cultural landscapes, historical landscapes, cinema is one of the cultural media that we can explore to see how, at different points in recent history, important geographical issues such as landscape change, land use conflict, conquest, colonisation, forced migration, human impact on the landscape, have been engaged with by filmmakers, and what shared point of view has been communicated back to audiences to take away as the corrected collective memory of landscape and history. Now, in a follow-up session to this one, I'm going to talk in more detail about westerns as a genre case study to explore this idea. But I know not everybody in the group particularly likes westerns, so I've separated that case study out from this introduction, and I've left it as an optional extra for you to look at if you want to. Now, if you decide that westerns aren't a case study that you want to explore, then you can choose a different genre, science fiction, horror, whatever you like. That's the point of this module. You can apply our basic ideas to case studies of your choice. So why am I going to talk about westerns specifically? Well, that's because westerns are one of the most explicitly geographical of film genres. They're specifically about the movement of a cultural frontier across an area of land. They're about land use conflicts that arose from that, and they're about the politics associated with those conflicts. Westerns are about lots of geographical issues. Westerns are about race relations, genocide. They're about natural resources. They're about forced migration, voluntary migrations. They're about the settlement and transformation of landscape. But don't get carried away with just the subject matter or the content of the genre. Remember also what I said about how we can read within art the artist's view of the world, whether that's embedded within the art simply because it was the artist's unconscious point of view, or because it was being promoted as propaganda, as a view intended for the viewer, for us to adopt and share. So generations of cinema goers through the middle of the 20th century grew up with Hollywood's version of the history of America, being presented week after week as history, not as the fiction that it was. So in looking at westerns, we learn probably more about how filmmakers viewed their own history or wanted the audience to view it than we do about the history itself. When we look at classic westerns such as High Noon or Rio Bravo from the 1950s, we learn much more about the political attitudes of the 1950s than we do about the Old West of the 1880s. Now, the same is true also of other genres, but nowhere is it as clear or as easy to explore for geographers as it is in the Western. Science fiction, for example, especially to do with the exploration and colonisation of space, that touches on many of the same issues. The film Avatar I saw described recently as being just like a Western. Someone equated it with Dances with Wolves and said Avatar was Dances with Aliens. It was a Western with blue skins. So for this week's work, it's up to you whether you follow on with my Westerns case study, or if you prefer to take the themes that we've looked at in this module and look at them exposed in some other cinema genre. But I'm keen for you to look at cinema this week and think about how the issues that we've been talking about are revealed in some particular film genre of your choice. Now, my suggestion, of course, would be that you do both of those things. You take a look at my Westerns case study first of all, and then follow it up with your own alternative genre example, and try to do to your genre what I'm about to do for you with mine.